I am aware that I may be late to the party. I was planning on reviewing the last season of You a couple of months ago, but I never found the time for it. Honestly, I wanted to forget about the show after I watched it. That's how much it hurt. I had sky high expectations for the series. All the previous seasons were good, top tier, from the pacing to the characters to the somewhat believable plots. Everything worked. Most character actions stayed consistent with who they were at their core. But this time, the writers got cocky and decided to do whatever felt right to them. The dialogue felt different, almost as if Netflix had hired a brand new writing staff. Something must have happened behind the scenes for the show to sink this low. I first got invested in You back in 2018, right after it was released, and the story was instantly engaging. Penn Badgley will always go down as the best casting choice the studio ever made. One of the strongest aspects of the show was that the characters are always changing. Rarely would a character appear in more than one season. Most of the supporting cast will either die or disappear by the time the season reached its final run. That kept things fresh, no one was safe, and it was always fun to speculate who will meet their end next, and in what order. For those who don't know, the series is based on the 2014 novel You by Caroline Kepnes. She spent years perfecting this story about a charismatic, handsome psychopath. Unlike the countless other books written about such characters, she managed to make this one stand out from the rest. You is a story about Joe Goldberg. On the surface, he looks like a normal skinny guy, but behind that facade is a dangerous murderer. Each season, we follow his character as he stalks a random woman he finds attractive. He creates false fantasies in his head about how they were meant to be together. He spends countless hours digging through their social media, bugging their homes, and even stealing strands of their hair. Eventually, he forces an interaction with the said woman. Since Joe appears as innocent as they come, the women easily fall in love with him once they get to know him. He isn't like most guys, or so they believe. But by the end of every season, the women meet their deaths. Joe then moves to another city and repeats the same cycle over and over again with another woman. In the last season, Joe is married to Kate Galvin, the richest woman in New York City. Because of her, he becomes one of the most desired men alive. He gains custody of his child, has a bank account filled with millions, and lives in an incredible apartment complex. Kate constantly proves how far she's willing to go just for his affection. Early in the season, Kate invests millions of dollars from Lockwood Corporation, her company, into charities around the globe. This angers both the board and members of her family, becoming the source of the central conflict. Kate, however, remains unapologetic about helping the less fortunate. Meanwhile, one would think Joe might finally decide to put his dark past behind him. But one day, while at his library, he meets Bronte, a woman who sneaks in to steal a book. Joe once again convinces himself that they are meant to be together. He falls back into the same toxic cycle, forgetting all good deeds Kate had done for him. In pursuit of a stranger he knows nothing about, Kate's uncle plans to oust her by revealing a series of shady things she had done in London. Behind her back, he goes to the company's board in an attempt to remove her as CEO. Kate's twin sister, along with her uncle, are growing sick and tired of her donating money to charities at the expense of the organization. Joe sees this as an opportunity to do what he has always loved doing. He pressures Kate to let him remove her uncle from the picture. Backed into a corner, Kate reluctantly agrees. If the story ended there, all would have been well, but it doesn't. Kate's sister, Maddie Lockwood, secretly records Joe murdering her uncle. She then threatens Kate, demanding that she step down or else the recording will be exposed to the world. Kate, still clinging to her innocence, she tries to convince Joe to run away with her to another country, a place where nobody could ever find them. What she doesn't realize is that Joe has already fallen in love with Bronte, a woman he refuses to leave behind, even for his wife. Maddie eventually disappears. Joe had again taken matters into his own hands. This is when Kate finally realizes how unhinged Joe truly is. He doesn't kill because he has to. He kills because he loves to. On top of that, she discovers Joe's infidelity. Cheating is the one betrayal she cannot forgive. Joe's problems only worsen when he learns that Bronte is an imposter. Her true motive is revenge for the death of Guinevere Beck, a woman whose life Joe had destroyed. Kate, fed up with Joe's lies and violence, cuts him off completely. He loses everything: the house, the cars, the bodyguards, the mansion. Even Bronte wants nothing to do with him. Still, Joe convinces himself he's the victim. Bronte pretends to be on his side, assuring him she won't leave. But in the end, she's the one who finally puts an end to this sick, treacherous psychopath. The character arcs, especially Joe's, felt rushed. It isn't explained how he suddenly becomes an idiot. In most seasons, he was never easily tricked, always 2 steps ahead of everyone. That was what made his character both frustrating and entertaining to watch. Joe was brilliant in whatever he did. Not even the police could catch him. In earlier seasons, his intellect was portrayed as being far above almost everyone else in this story's universe. But in the final season, multiple people are somehow able to outsmart and outthink him. Characters who were never particularly clever are suddenly running circles around him. This is one of the biggest character assassinations I have ever seen. Joe is easily kidnapped by Kate, he confesses to all his crimes on camera, and he openly cheats on Kate in public, fully aware he could be caught. He uses a single bank account, despite knowing Kate has complete control over it. And he even signs away custody of his son. All of the women Joe has claimed to love. It feels absurd. He suddenly becomes a fool because of Bronte. Honestly, she isn't even portrayed as more beautiful or smarter than the women from previous seasons. In earlier seasons, Joe always maintained a level of brilliance when pursuing a woman. He always did his homework and never truly trusted anyone, no matter how much he knew about them. The writers, knowing they were going to end the show, had built him up as an intelligent, calculating man who considered infinite possibilities before making a move. But instead of crafting a clever conclusion, they simply nerfed his intelligence and strength. Sadly, it feels like the laziest route they could have taken to end this amazing character. My biggest complaint about the final season is that the writers were afraid of killing off the main cast. That completely goes against the rules established in the books. Instead of being a realistic psychological drama about a psychopath, the show devolved into a fantasy. Characters survive death in most ridiculous ways. Take the library scene. For example, the entire building is in flames. Kate has recorded Joe confessing to the murders of all his wives, and she's bleeding out from a bullet wound. The logical, tragic ending would have been for the two of them to die in each other's arms. There is absolutely no way either of them could have survived that, but somehow Bronte rescues Joe from a burning building, leaving Kate behind to struggle for her life. That moment could have been powerful, tragic, and remorseful for the audience. Instead, in the very next episode, it's revealed that Kate survived the accident without a single burn mark on her face. She's just fine. How in the world is that even possible? How? The writers insult the audience's intelligence by pretending such survival makes sense. Another example comes in the final episode, when Joe strangles Bronte underwater. The audience clearly see her lose consciousness, her head submerged beneath the water. Yet moments later, she's alive, not only surviving the attack but also playing a vital role in Joe's downfall. And then there is the sudden resurrection of Marianne, which comes completely out of nowhere. The death of beloved characters is what makes a psychological thriller work. It raises the stakes and keeps the audience unsettled. But this season repeatedly avoids that, trading realism for cheap fantasy. In conclusion, the final season of You was upsetting on so many levels. The casting wasn't anywhere near the standard set by previous seasons. The choice of Anna Camp and Madeleine Brewer as Maddie and Bronte was especially disappointing. Their performances failed to sell the characters. Despite their efforts, the casting overall was that poor. The series featured a huge ensemble cast, yet many characters were introduced only to disappear without a purpose. Several of them clearly had nothing to work with and seemed to be there simply for the page. You now joins the long list of amazing shows that fell apart in their final season. The pacing was purely executed, with emotional moments rushed or glossed over in favor of jumping to yet another murder scene. By the end, I didn't care about a single character. they were written that badly. This isn't a critique of the actors. They did their jobs with what they were given. The fault lies squarely on the writing and the storylines. Sadly, the final season was the worst in its show's entire run. Anyway, that's my review of You. If you had any opinions, if you loved it, if you didn't like it, let on in the comments below. Subscribe, like, and I'll be seeing you in the next video.